Hey yo, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Sensei Fouché. Let's chop it up. The thing that I'm gonna talk about today, and pardon me, because when I be looking at myself a little bit through a reflection, I kind of have to straighten up, as I will call it. But anyway, besides that, there's a lot of things that go on in people's lives, and I'm going through something, you know, domestic right now, trying to go through a transition and be mature and aware in the process, of this, residential situation. And in legal aspect, there's things you can't do and there's things that you can't do. And from the conversations that we have, there's a mature way of going about things, and then there's an immature way of going about things, you know. And what is. And that's something that we speak about a lot here is understanding what is. And that was something that I used to have a serious problem with is understanding what is, because you hold a lot of resentment because of the change, but then the cycle of frustration is um, understood to be unnecessary as well. So you're basically living in a double edged sword, if I'm correct in stating that analogy, you know. But the thing about it is, when, I speak a lot about truth as well, you know what I'm saying, and honesty, and the last conversation that I had on this specific show was honesty has you not holding the bag of guilt, you know what I'm saying? And that is a very transparent way of being and living, So then, when you deal with dishonest people, like how does that operate? Now, usually dishonest people, for the sake of their public appearance, like they'll put on a show, they're gonna perform, they're gonna say a whole bunch of things in order to show or make themselves present a certain way, because being the hero is important to them. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to be noted as a hero when nobody really, was desperate for a hero. You know what I'm saying? So you need to be liked. When things go wrong, it's easy to talk about things when things are going all good and right. But when things go wrong, like how do you have those conversations? Are you accountable into the things that you have done or how you could be wrong? And if not being accountable is not something that you practice, then that falls into what they label as narcissism. But the thing about it is, what I'm saying, people usually base, not everyone, but a good amount of people are going to base their opinions based on, what people tell them. Possibly, depending on the level of the relationship, but it doesn't necessarily make it true. It just really depends on that person and how well you know them, and maybe know a little bit more about the situation and other people that are involved in it. So then you're able to get a broader perspective on, being able to break down, what's valid and what is invalid as well. But these hero seekers, you know what I'm saying? And a long time ago, like, I didn't consider myself someone that was, well received. So being the villain, felt comfortable. But then in me being the villain, the way that I displayed it was extremely in an external standpoint. Like I operated extreme to um for me to let you see that I was developing. Like I wanted to play the character. Like not really wanted to, but I became more engulfed into the character the more that I felt rejected. You know what I'm saying? So, being the villain was normal for me, and I would play that role. But then, when it happened, when it goes into the parallel of the hero, like you're desperate to be the hero. Like being the villain, you're gonna, go out of your way to not be liked. But in the opposite respect, like, these hero seekers, they go out of their way to seem as if they are liked. And my thing is, what is. You know what I'm saying? Because someone so desperate to be a hero needs a villain. They're desperate for the villain. Like they have to create a villain. You know what I'm saying? Because if there's no villain in their story and people start to follow the script, you know what I'm saying, then they'll see this person really isn't who they really appear to be. You know what I'm saying? Because, the reality is you never really, you know, get along with a whole lot of group of people. Like everything is based off of fiction and people pleasing. I mean, I'm telling y'all some real game right here because this happened to me 2 times in a row. You know what I'm saying? And in the fortune of dealing with these experiences, because I am a glass half full guy, these days, more than glass half empty for sure, because I don't really do that. But I look at things as a lesson and an experience because these experiences has me here in front of, you, or you're listening, and I am dropping what my man Packboy Dolo called that game. You know what I'm saying? Because all my experiences and the education that I added along within these specific experiences, because with these specific experiences, I went into a deeper education on mental health and psychology. And I consider myself like a commonly, at the, before all of this, just, a pretty slightly above average, educated person, generally. You know what I'm saying? But, I know my fortitude because I've done extensive education when I was down south in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? But I was still dealing with a lot of insecurity, and that led into high dependency issues with addiction. You know what I'm saying? But through the education, well, first being clear, because being clear, is the first main tool that's necessary in order to, go into a deeper study of self, like being a deeper you. You know what I'm saying? But all that being said, like I feel what I got out of this was, if all of this doesn't happen, would I have been into the deepest of study for the last 3 years in specific relation to mental health and psychology? And the thing about it is, being in this deep study has me understand exactly how this is playing out and why it's playing out. And understand these analogies that I'm using in reference, how they make sense in relation to the things that go on in common life. And that's why I stated every desperate hero needs a villain. They need them. You know what I'm saying? Because when you have the villain, then you're able to put all of your problems and blame into the villain. Everything's not going well because of this. And then, you know what I'm saying, that person is no longer in your life. So then you replace that villain with another villain, because the new person that comes in and becomes like more intimate or close, like that starts to become very restricting as well, or very hard to deal with, and more because of you and the fact that you're not honest. And when you go into these relationships, you know, you're not authentic. And then in that unauthenticity, you go into these relationships based on untruth. And you know, and I'm gonna speak specifically for me. For me, I am an extremely transparent person when it comes to, you know, introducing relationships. I mean, I'm comfortable in who I am and what I do, and I am responsible and respectful in the aspect of my choices. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing that I am going to do myself is always let someone know 100, like, as we would say, you know, exactly, you know, who I am, what I think, and, you know, how I move. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to follow through. And it's not to say, you know, I can't be wrong and change my mind along the way once I become more educated and aware in things. But, you know, from Front Street, you're gonna basically, you know, understand like what you're getting, and, you know, what I've been through and what I'm about in this current moment. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna have someone, you know, not be have disclosure and full opportunity of choice upon introducing myself in regards to having a relationship. But then again, not all people operate like that. Like, they have to operate like a used car salesman. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that, you know, they have a high level of insecurity and things that they don't like about themselves, but, you know, they choose to be more what's the I was thinking about coy, or man, what's the word I've been using a lot lately? Vague about, you know, who they really are. Like, they'll hear your story, and then they'll tell their story based on the things that they think that you want to hear, that you're really into, because they know about those things and they have some familiarity, but it really isn't something that they're deeply connected to. They're just, you know, interested in some sense that you're interested in it, and they like hearing you talk about your interests because they don't really have anything going on themselves. But when you operate like that and you go into these relationships unauthentic, that's how they always break down. You talk about buildings and foundation, and when you have buildings and foundation that is solid from jump, everything above the structure should be able to hold. The structure should always be solid, and then everything above it should just continue to build on top of that solid structure. But if you don't have a solid structure and a foundation, then of course eventually this whole thing is just gonna implode. You know, and then you go into, you know, the victim role. You know what I'm saying? Oh, poor me, so on and so forth. You know, and then when you explain and spin the story of how the breakdown happened, like, you come in like, you know, you was the savior. You want to be the hero. And then you have to, you know, create the villain in order to, you know, make yourself look justified in how you feeling with the situation that's going on, that you created by your dishonesty and not being um, transparent in full disclosure. I mean, really think about that. I know that all of us know these type of people. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, they're people pleasers. They're narcissists, and they're desperate to be the hero. You know what I'm saying? Desperate. Me, I ain't desperate to be the hero, and I'm not trying to be the villain. You know what I'm saying? I'm staying in my lane. I'm what they would call um, an observer. You know, and yeah, I'm not trying to have any specific type of judgment other than what I understand and what is. Like my opinions are less based on emotion and most they're based on observation and fact. I'm not trying to be the villain, and I don't need to be the hero. I'm not desperate to be the hero. I mean, in the whole aspect of all of the work that I've put in with my daughter, and even going into her counseling, the thing that I understood most approaching that situation and having a pre-understanding and study with psychology in basics by watching things like Dr. Phil, Oprah for years or whatever, is that the way that you are best be the way that someone else is able to serve you best is when you are fully transparent and honesty and full disclosure with the assistant, because if you don't do that, you just running in circles. Like there's no um um organization, we'll use that for now, no organization in order to create the steps to start peeling layers. And I'm not really going to go and hold on to this conversation like extremely long, because it's really, ad lib, and also I think we covered a good bit that I'm thinking in the ad lib already. Like I'm just trying to figure out more things to build on top of it, but I don't want to over confuse or over speak, what basically is. You know what I'm saying? My awareness is that understanding what is important. When you have vagueness and confusion, it leaves a lot of speculation and uncertainty into how other people would operate around you. So being extremely, again, transparent and clear will help grow relationships in a healthy process instead of isolate and separate you based on your narcissism and your hero complex. So again, you know what I'm saying, and I don't know if this came out right. I'm sure it came out well, and nothing's perfect. And like I was stating before, like I don't want to overspeak on this subject because we basically was talking about what is. That's what we were saying. So when you understand, what is, you should be able to make mature decisions in moving forward based on the truth of what is. If there's a lot of skepticism and uncertainty, then it's hard for people to move around you based on not understanding specifically what is. Me, I had to kind of, push the meter and almost try to force, and that's not in a physical sense, but in an approach sense, to start to become more assertive into um, understanding what really is, as opposed to all the skepticism and vagueness. Once I understood what is, then I'm going to wind up keeping it pushing. And I'm not going to try to, make my intent, my malicious intent to try to stain or speak against your reputation, to the for my what I think is my better fortune to look like the hero out of the story that was created, and now there is an extreme distress between two people that were supposed to be in a partnership. You know what I'm saying? And that's in any relationship, not just the most, intimate, or, having, in a marriage. I mean, it could be any type of relationship, but, yeah, when you have those hero seekers, be aware of those hero seekers, man, because they're so desperate to be the hero that the closer that you are to them, and they wind up being exposed for who they are, and you understand that you aren't really able to help them. They're just going to try to suck and leech you dry out of the blood and the hard work that you will put in to trying to help them. They're going to make you the villain. You know what I'm saying? You could guarantee that. You know what I'm saying? And in my case, in this situation, I just replaced somebody else that was spoken to me, or other people that were spoken to me in the beginning, that were the victim in this person's problems. Now that I kind of took more of a primary role, in the life created off of fiction and untruth, eventually the more that I went in and found how much hard work I was putting in to trying to help someone, not save them, I just started to become extremely frustrated, as anybody would. It's like you have a job and you working with people that don't work as hard as you, but the job is important. And then while you wind up getting worn out and frustrated to where you almost are labeled angry, you know what I'm saying? And you probably are feeling a form of anger, but not because, you're an angry person. It's out of frustration because, everybody in this team, not everybody's working, and then it's putting more pressure on you to perform. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you know what I'm saying? My time's kind of gotten short, and I don't want to get too deep into this more, but I'm glad that I was able to add on, because I felt like those last statements and analogy was important to kind of, put forth too, because, this is how I think all day. This is how I move. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? I want all of you to remember to be smooth in unity. This is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché, and we just chopped it up. One.